Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this debate. Well, clearly the organizers figured that there are far more millennials here in this room, and therefore to lend some kind of a support to the non-millennials, they chose me to moderate this panel. Well, I must say that the millennials, and we were talking here in the room just before we walked in, so one of them has fed me some very amazing macaroons, and the other has given me a beautiful book. So I'm already kind of tilted towards this side. Well, I think it's a very important point, and though we are going to have a lot of fun here and discuss this issue in a very light-hearted way, but at the same time, I think it's a very important issue that we are going to be talking about. So talking about an important issue doesn't mean we've got to do it seriously. The reason I say that is because, so let's just look at the last 10, 15 days. I've been a financial journalist all my life, so keep track of news very, very closely. So what have I heard in the last 15 days? I've heard a very senior government functionary saying that the Indian automobile slowdown is because millennials aren't buying cars. I've read about a world-beating company that makes shaving products saying that we lost $7 billion because millennials don't shave anymore. And they prefer to keep a beard, the millennial men. The other piece of news, what an expert said, and I caught that, was that the real estate market is falling and is in a slump because millennials prefer to stay on rent. So this is just in the last 15 days. While, every generation is different from the other one, I don't think there is any generation which has been put under the kind of scrutiny as much as the millennials have been put through. So, of course, it's a different generation, and we'll hear a lot about that from our esteemed panel, who have got a lot of experience in dealing with people. And as I said, this is a people debate. But on the other hand, we also need to keep in mind that there is no right or wrong here. They are different. Millennials are different. We need to understand that. Are they over-stereotyped is what we are going to try and understand today. But there is no doubt that there are several aspects of millennials which probably the Gen X or the older generation kind of doesn't relate to. Sometimes, every day when you read about a new survey, if you read about the kind of things that I told you in the last 15 days alone that I've read, you almost feel as if the millennials belong to another planet. And that's not really the case. So from one generation to the other, there's always going to be a change. But how can we create an ecosystem? After all, you're all corporate czars sitting out here. And how are you going to take in the learnings or the thinking of the millennial into your company? If you're a millennial, even if you're starting out on your own, you are probably going to need a pool of experienced people to work with you. So how do we come to a point where we can agree to respect each other's thinking, respect each other's attitude and approach? So the panel has been introduced to you. Great experience, great people with a lot of human experience. So let's try and set the rules here. We will have each of them talking about the overarching subject, which is, are millennials overly stereotyped? During the course of their comments, if somebody from the other side has a point to make, you can press the buzzer. You can't interject at that time, but you'll get your chance to make your point. I also want this to be a very engaging session with the audience, some extremely bright people sitting here, and would love to hear what you feel, both as a comment or as a question to either of the panelists once we've done our first round of questions that I'll take the liberty to ask them. Okay, so let's start with the CXOs. Shraddha, let me come to you first. You work with a lot of different age groups. You work with people who are in their 50s. You work with people who are in their 20s as well. Is the whole millennial story an overhyped story?
Let me set the record straight. I'm a millennial. I happen to be on the CXO side of the table, so I'll battle from this side today. But I definitely believe it's overrated. I think millennials bring something to the table. There's a value to what they bring in. But to generalize all of them and say that they are lazy, that they have certain principles of work ethics which are different from ours, we are scrutinizing them too harshly. But I also want to say, as organizations, we need to look at how to make both the generations come together. And I don't believe that's a halfway path, because then you will compromise on both sets of qualities. If you're able to leverage what millennials bring and value them for that, they will be happy, you will be happy. They're crazy digital natives, right? They know social media better than us. I will acknowledge that. Let's use them for what they bring that. Let's not accept that there's a certain standard we want to enforce in our organizations. 3 large points I want to leave you with. Understand their uniqueness and don't stereotype them. Understand where they come from. They grew up in an economy with social, political, technology transformations. So it's very obvious that they believe technology is a solution to everything. Second, figure out what value they can create in the organizational context. So if they are disruptors, they want to be brutally honest to you and tell that your organization sucks, the processes take too long. Take that feedback, ask them to be constructive. The third, and my advice to them, relationships matter, not just at home, but at work. And that would be something that as millennials need to invest in, not just saying what I learned from others in the organization, but what I can contribute back and how I can create respect, genuine mutual respect. So those would be the 3 thoughts. Yes, we are generalizing them too much, but I think there is a better way if we decide to understand and appreciate each other's value.
Okay.
So, I haven't driven a car since November 17.
Okay.
I have a beard. And I rent a home. So clearly I understand.
Absolutely.
But beyond understanding, I mean, I am tired of having to deal with, please tell me how great I am every day. I am tired of, I'm getting bored. Can I do a different job now, please? It's been 2 weeks already. And, I appreciate that they can multitask, but, research has shown that, paying attention to one thing at a time does lead to better outcomes. So that is something to think about. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Ashish, before you answer, quick question. Are millennials good at acting?
So Vivek, I think you made a point that we have to actually be dealing with the serious issues. So, and I really want us to all get that this is not as frivolous as some of us may think it is. So a year back, I was doing a Coke ad, and in that Coke ad, there were earlier some dialogues, and then all the dialogues were removed. It was only music. And in the last one moment, I said something, and people keep asking me, what did I ask my character, the other character who was playing, he was playing my son. And I asked him a question that I asked my son. Please share your Instagram password. Now, I do have a genuine issue with this. The problem is, it begins and even ends in social media. Do you know that wonderful blue tick in WhatsApp? Why have all the millennials removed that thing that you find out whether you read the message or not? I mean, this is a serious now. Now, please don't clap and make it frivolous or laugh. Please, it's a serious issue. I'm dealing with it all the time with my son. I'm dealing with it with one of the youngest people who are part of Avid Minor. Really dealing with it. Say that, yeah, if the 2 ticks are there, that means I've received it. No, I want the blue thing happening. Okay? Now, it may be a question of privacy, but who said that we want to give them privacy? Did we promise that? Never got privacy in our times, did we? Remember, we want the best for them just as our parents wanted the best for us. So we actually want the best for them, except that we have a problem today with stereotypes. And I want you to consider for a moment one thing. It's not a question of whether millennials are stereotyped or we are. For example, I have a certain belief that probably I break a few stereotypes right now. And it's nothing to do with my age, right? Yes or yes? Consider one moment that the moment we get the charm that this is the age where scrutiny has become public knowledge. The other generation always got scrutinized. They first got scrutinized within the family, and then in relations when they met, they used to discuss how the kids are doing and what the kids are not doing. All that has happened now is that it's spread in the social network. And one of the phenomenal things that's happened in terms of this stereotype, which I really love, is the way they are blasé about things. And I love it, but I can't afford it. So I think a few of us have to really get right at the beginning of this debate, is there are two different kinds of mindset, which I would liken a bit to that wonderful line which I love about Caligula, which says, let's have a method to our madness. So as we go into this debate, I want to inquire into how will it be if we can get some method into that madness.
Okay.
Thanks.
So your turn now. There were a lot of interjections as well. You get your chance to cross-question them or to make a point on what you didn't like what they said or you want to argue on that. But a quick point from what Ashish said, is there a method to your madness?
Well, we can say that there is a method to the madness because we can spot patterns and trends in the way they are speaking, in the way they think, in expressing what they really want. Now, but it shouldn't come off as a generalization, right? It shouldn't come off as, okay, you guys are always like this, or you guys are never like that, right? So it's important for us to think of the individual instead of painting a broad strokes, right? That's the problem that we face. And that affects the self-esteem of the millennials because once you've already painted a broad brush, right, they don't feel like they will be listened to. Because whatever I say, you will always have those shades, those glasses, those tinted glasses that you will be looking at us from, right? So that's very important for us to take note of.
What about the larger question, Vivek? I'll stay with you. In terms of, do you believe there is just way too much of scrutiny, way too much of over-stereotyping? You did make the point that it's not to be generalized, everybody is different, but on certain aspects, especially when surveys throw out, we polled 5,000 millennials and 10,000 millennials, do you believe a lot of that may not be correct?
See, you will get certain kind of results from polls, from surveys, but I think the real sentiments are when you see millennials being scrutinized on social media. If you just see one event post up about complaining about a millennial, this person who's complaining about traveling to Japan and finding that, oh, it is so hard to travel in Japan. She's putting her point of view. And then you see all the other non-millennials will come and say, oh my God, strawberries, you guys are so weak, right? They will actually put out what they have in their hearts on the social media because they become keyboard warriors. They become so brutal, they become so honest, and all the bias comes out, not face-to-face, but more on social media. So it's important for us to see that this is happening, and we may not be able to detect it with all these polls and surveys, which are already quantified, and they have certain questions, but we are not able to get the real insight from that, right? Social media actually can track and show you the bias that is there in society.
Bani?
When it comes to social media, I started my whole business 4 years ago by just posting my cakes and my hobbies on Instagram and on Facebook. I started on Facebook. And then I saw and I picked up the trends. I saw Facebook is dying, so I switched to Instagram, and I really feel the connect. People, they don't only follow Miam for its products, they follow my journey. They know what I'm doing. They know I'm here today. And it's a very, very important tool that I feel that most organizations ignore. Mind you, it's a free tool. I've never spent a penny on Instagram. I've never advertised on Instagram, and I'm using it. It's benefiting my business in a really healthy manner. Yeah.
Okay, don't worry about that. You go ahead.
That's okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And people call me a millennial. I'm quite tired of it. I started my business single-handedly. I have a background in the sciences. I have a degree in physics. And then one day I decided to become a chef. And yeah, it was very shocking. People were like, that's like this generation is crazy. They just want to keep switching their stream. But I had no background in business studies. I'd never studied economy. I'd never studied commerce. And I had to learn everything from scratch. I had to learn PR, branding. I had to learn social media on my own. I had to learn, I had to learn accounting. Yeah, my accountant used to hate me. I had to learn GST. I had to be with it. The government changed its policies every year. One day you had VAT, one day you had GST, and I had to figure most of it on my own. I never had any guidance, and I'm quite proud of myself. So I don't want to be called a millennial. Why can't I just be called a hardworking young individual?
You said you're tired of being called a millennial. Right? Yeah. You said you're tired of being called a millennial. Why did you say that?
Because why does it have to be a generalization of some sorts?
Okay.
Why can't I just be respected for someone who stood up and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, these are my challenges, and I'm going to do them single-handedly, step by step. Why do I have to be a millennial for that?
Okay, great. Kavita, how's it been for you? You work in a company where you have probably, 60-70% people, higher than you in age, older than you, if I may put it that way, and yet you are deciding a lot of things for them. Do they take you seriously?
It's very interesting, first of all, because I'm a millennial and I'm working for a company which has 60 to 70% of our population which is above the age of 40, not millennials. But also there are 40% people almost of ages which are under the age group of millennials. And we are deciding on policies for both the age groups because we don't differentiate between employees. When we talk about ONGC in particular, we take a lot of pride in the company because we are securing nation's energy needs as a company. So all of us, when we join the company, we are given a 2-month induction training where this pride is fed into our minds that we are working for the nation. So we are there itself, that thought process is left behind that we are at this age group and I have this particular thought because ultimately I get aligned to the mission of the company, that is to secure nation's energy safety, energy security.
Right.
Yeah, but when I would go back to Mr. Ashish's question, is there a way to the madness? I would say happiness. The Dalai Lama said that the only purpose of our life is happiness, and all of us, including millennials, want to find happiness through purposeful work, through relationships, and through an engaging life, through wellness and balance. And this is what millennials are looking for. When, in particular, I want to talk about core sector industries, such as ONGC, IOCL, or NHPC, or any fertilizers for that matter. We are seen as entitled was a word, but I want to say that all of us who joined the core sector have studied engineering and technology and have chosen this sector as a career. We have done multiple internships and we have decided that this is where we want to make a career. So I don't think that tag of entitlement and that tag of we don't want to get our hands dirty into bad jobs should come at all. But I think that somewhere comes across, and there is a need for the management to somewhere tweak it. Otherwise,
okay.
Yeah.
Lots of rebuttals coming here, but one quick question, Shraddha, that I have for you. Do you see a greater attrition when it comes to the younger people in your organization versus, say, the older ones?
Yes, absolutely. So statistically, the people, so when we have freshers out of college, right, they spend first 2 years with you typically. And then there's this 2-year itch. I don't want to compare it to the 7-year marriage itch, but there is that itch to go try something else, right? Another company, another profile. If they find that job inside the organization, they're happy to stay if they love your brand. But the restlessness in putting the effort to find something else, and it's faster to go in a market because other companies are aggressively hiring, is very high. So statistically proven, 3 to 5 years range is where the maximum attrition happens. If the first switch happens within the company, first switch of roles after 2 years, they stay with you much longer. So that's a clear answer to what you were asking for.
Yeah.
One additional feedback is for most companies, you will see them wanting to do higher education. And one question I have for the audience is how many of us, outside of exceptional policy approvals for higher education, do we give a fair chance to all the millennials in the company? And I know it's not a straightforward answer because this costs a lot of money, but that's something that they want. And is that something that we have enabled our organizations for?
Do you believe, Shraddha, that millennials are more entrepreneurial, and even if they are working in your company, you need to treat them as entrepreneurs?
Absolutely.
Rather than as employees. Is that
Absolutely.
something companies like you represent a global company, is that something that's happening world over and you're trying to do in India?
Very, very much there. If I have to call out one skill that these guys have, now I'm calling you these guys, is this entrepreneurial spirit, this spirit of wanting to try something new, right? The lack of fear of failure, it's not that they don't have it, but they're okay with it. I don't know, maybe, imagine I telling my parents, I'm thinking after college saying I'm going to take a year's break and try traveling the world, would not have been a polite conversation, but you've been able to do that. You've had that ability and exposure. The entrepreneurial spirit, and a lot of companies are doing is, there are hackathons, there's innovation. At SAP, I'll give you an example. We actually run a startup studio where we fund people. So you step out of your regular jobs, you participate in a hackathon, you get selected. The top 3 teams are sent for a year to San Francisco, funded money. We've put in millions in building their startups. So there are enough and more platforms that we're creating because we know that's a critical requirement for millennials. They want to shine in their own way. You can ask them to do the bread and butter job, but you have to give them the cherry on the cake. And they are not limited. I think the most important element is they are not limited by, their imagination is not limited by their experience. And that, as a company, we need to understand.
Prithvi, are they very transactional as well? In the sense, if I don't get the cherry, I'll leave you and I'll go somewhere else?
So can I come back to that answer?
Yeah,
I just
sure.
wanted to add to something. So I don't rent a car. I don't own a car. I have a beard and I rent a house. I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And
Should
for
we
the
ask you to
record,
shift here?
for the record, HBR did research and found that the most successful startups, the average age of the founder is 45 years old.
I know, I couldn't agree more with you because...
So I think there are certain generalizations that work both ways.
Right.
I think that, my son believes that by putting the blue tick off, I don't know what he's up to. But I may be very well much more aware than he really knows.
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot of generalizations that go both ways. But coming to your point about transactional, I don't think it's transactional. I think Shraddha made an interesting point that relationships need to be invested in. I actually find that the relationships are important across both generations. I think how we invest in them is different. I value meeting a person over lunch and looking into their eyes and having a real conversation. Possibly, people who are younger than me prefer sending a WhatsApp message and having a long chat on Instagram and sharing photographs, etc. Which, by the way, I have an Instagram account too. So maybe they prefer doing that. But maybe that's where the difference is. It's not I wouldn't go as far as saying that they're transactional, but possibly the way they come across in managing a relationship or managing an interaction is possibly a little different.
Okay. Ashish, when you... Do you believe, since you work so closely with corporates now and interact so much with them and employees, would you say that they are an extremely smart generation and way more smarter than our generation?
So, Vivek, we are in the midst of generalizations, all right? And that's the interesting part in life. You've heard that thing about how do you shorten a line without touching it, haven't we? All right? And let's face it, that each one of us is ongoingly very adept at it. Now, since this probably this I think really something which inspires me, and I want to share this. Not just generations, each culture, each profession, each country, each language, each gender has something unique about it. If we can just look at it, like I'm a professional student, I've just therefore engraved my name also that way. You may laugh. So first of all, don't get so serious, my friends, please. There's like really serious conversation happening, but I really want us to get that we have so much to learn, because each time that I talk to my son, I just notice that how light he is about things. And he's accomplishing such a lot. And when I meet millennials at different points, and I see such a lot of nervous energy in them. I just love energy, because energy is something that as I age, I'm part of a startup. As you thank you for saying that till the age of 54 you can have a successful startup. That's what you said, right? 54,
45.
right? So I'm 54, and I'm in the process of really working and creating this startup of mine. Now, I get that I have a certain age and wisdom or life that I've lived, but I also love the fact that I may also have the passion, and the energy that you people bring. And that's something which is actually on our side. We can take their passion, we can take their energy, but you know what? We have the experience. Now, even if you want to do a game of one-upmanship, I just want to turn the story slightly different. Imagine if we can be part of a large pool in which their passion is available to us, our thinking and wisdom is available to them. I really think that this is really a win-win scenario, especially in India, where we still have our pathways open with you, the millennial. It's not a place where those young kids have walked out of home and they are not with us. We are not aware. As Prithvi says, we are not aware of what they are doing in spite of the blue tick missing. The point is that this is really an opportunity, Vivek, where we can actually reach out and take the best from each one of us and share what we have and create a disruptive conversation from what the West has created. This conversation of millennial, I really think, as my friend Abhijit Bhaduri keeps pointing out, that this millennial versus us is more a Western concept which we are trying to supplant into us. I really think ये जो amazing बच्चे हैं ना, ये हमको हमेशा inspire करते हैं. Isn't it a fact? Isn't it a fact? How many of us here are on Instagram? I'm on Instagram, trying to get my numbers high. And I love that. I really find that as a way of reaching out. And we, I think, have really an opportunity, rather than creating this staged mock differentiation between us, we might, and as Shraddhanjali very beautifully said, that probably there's something of value in even, what Prithvi was saying, that probably if you can stay on a bit longer, experience it a bit more, and be okay that probably these guys who are offering you something are not against you. Because seriously, I really don't think that, we really have an opportunity and we do speak to each other. So I'm really grateful that we live in this amazing country called India, where we still are not too far away from our traditions. When you were called bache,
Right.
and you called us uncles.
Okay, so I know there were a couple of rebuttals here, but I'll come to that. But Vivek, I have a question for you. Do you believe that the millennials have the kind of respect for experience for the previous generation, or do you feel that they're just much better left to their own and finding their own little community of people their age and going forward? Do you see that?
So to answer that, I do believe that they don't see experience doing the same thing over and over again as experience.
Okay.
Right? Because
That's
you've
a
already
very
done it
important
once.
point.
Why do you do it multiple times and call it experience? Doing multiple things in different manners, different ways, that they see it as experience. Right? That's how innovation is done. That's how creativity is formed. That's how people come together and bring in their own 2 cents and make something better out of it, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
Right. Bani, you run your own company. Would you, going forward, hire certain Gen X people, or would you much rather hire millennials itself?
I hire millennials, and
You'll hire
I
millennials. You won't
yeah.
look at us.
No,
Okay, why is that?
I have a team of 15 now. I started
Yeah.
alone, and I feel.
And they're all young people.
Yes, I'll tell you why it's very important for me. My entire chef team, my brand has my own aesthetics attached to it. The way I decorate a cake or the placement of something. If I were to hire people that were too experienced, they would come with their own aesthetic sense or their own way of doing things, which might not help my business. Okay. So I prefer hiring really fresh and young people and who come with like a blank slate, and I can then they can join me and then they can I can mold them in the way I want to mold them and I can prepare them for the future.
So you believe that somebody who is older from the previous generation will not be moldable?
Maybe not in my scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that.
Come, we'll bake a cake tomorrow. Okay? Yeah.
Well, we all loved your macaroons.
Inclusion.
We loved your macaroons, but it's a pity that you won't hire us, so that's okay. But we'll still love your macaroons and we'll still go and eat them. Kavita, you want to add something? I thought you had a rebuttal as well.
I had rebuttals, but let me just check a couple of points. So, relationships, you wanted us to invest into relationships. One of the things about millennials is that we go to work to find life there. And work, for me, ONGC, every day, 9:30 in the morning is meeting friends. I see friends in my boss. There are interesting discussions, and I find meaningful relationships. It's an interesting combination. So if you feel that we are not investing in relationships, we are immensely invested in all relationships. We have friends with our school friends, we have friends with our college friends, equally connected. With my previous company colleagues also, I'm equally connected. And with my current company, who are my best friends today, I want to see their faces every day in the morning. So, and my bosses. So we are investing into relationships and we go to work to make friends actually.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to take one round of rebuttal here and then throw open the stage to the audience. I know I can sense a lot of questions and lots of points here. Some very interesting points being made. Shraddha, please
Let me
reply.
go on the Instagram, right? I have obviously the Instagram people here on the side as well. The likes on an Instagram may give you a high, but the warmth of a hug on a day you feel lonely is not replaceable, my dear friends.
Okay, all right. Ashish, you had a point to make?
First of all, include us. So I really think that this is, tongue-in-cheek and thing. Yes, I want my son to allow me to follow him on his real Instagram thing. Yes, I do. I really do. At the same time, I'm really fascinated by, as you said, the friendships that he has. Friendships and the way. And sometimes I really catch myself because I want them to be friendly my way. I probably want them to have relationships the way I think that we should have. I'm fascinated because I'm an only child and I'm really trying to put it in this context. He's 18 and I really see him creating his own life. And the same that as I'm hearing the three of you, actually, you're going to turn out exactly like us. just like
Ashish, that will still not get us the job in Bani's company. Don't worry.
Just like we are being accused of throwing you out. I just felt thrown out. Don't do that. I keep telling my son, Mogu, we will travel together. He says, yeah, Baba, we will. It's like that.
Okay. There was a rebuttal here. Quickly, then I need to go to the audience.
So saying that we will just turn out like you guys is saying like, it's just like my mom saying, you will not understand until you become a mother. Right? It is just a way of, hiding behind an excuse or a belief saying that this will happen to you. You will understand later.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking, right?
Okay.
So that's, that being said, right, millennials typically are are being, so someone mentioned that they are multitaskers, right? See, when I was working with colleges, I was giving a lecture, all of them are on laptops. And I'm thinking, are they listening to me or are they doing something else? So I snuck up behind them and I see two things. One person is live streaming the entire session to her friend who is sick and couldn't attend the session. And number two, some of them are all on Google Sheets taking notes so that all the notes are compiled into one document. So they are actually listening and taking notes and multitasking. So if we are able to actually take these strengths and leverage on them, they can actually be very useful and add value immensely.
Okay, great. So let's throw the floor open. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic across to you. If it's specifically for any one of the panelists, you can name them and I'll get them to, yes, the lady here, please. If you could just stand up, then I guess everybody can see you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shweta, and I'm a millennial.
Okay.
And I have a comment. I think that these terms, millennials, zillennials, they are more of marketing strategies.
Okay.
And generation gap, which is something real, but not something new, that has prevailed since the inception of, I don't know, humankind.
Sure.
And today we have a platform like SHR and many more, where we are discussing about this and talking about it at length. But this is something very, very natural. I'm sure that my mom and my grandparents also had similar, disinterest and similar arguments, contradictions. And today they are having with me. And obviously I'll have with my own children when I have. So this is something very natural, and I think we should not, again, generalize it these days because of, again, so much of social media and, like I said, marketing strategies. We are kind of generalizing, putting brush strokes. But if we just, take a very organic, natural approach, see the individual behind the names, I think we'll be better
Okay,
off.
great point. Yes, the lady here, please. Yes. Here in the front row. Can you get a mic here?
Good evening.
Yes.
I'm Sunanda. Well, just a comment. As she rightly said, there is always a generation discrimination that happens. But I see that we all learn from millennials a lot. I often follow Mr. Ashish Vidyarthi, and I see nowadays he's making small videos on the LinkedIn when he's traveling or something. So I'm sure you are inspired by the youngsters only, right? So, we are learning from you. And one, comment when Shraddhanjali was saying that, yes, you are, investing on millennials. Maybe your organization sees a future in it. That's the reason it is investing on it.
Sure, okay. Another point coming in? Yes, the gentleman here, please. Can you get the mic across?
Hello, I am Ajay Chauhan. I just want to add the point which she told, and we can see the seed of the things when she was telling, the millennium was telling, that she wanted to write on the slate. What does it indicate? That they also wanted to impose the thing, whosoever is coming later on. So it shows that millennials are not different than that of earlier generation.
Okay, okay. All right, you want to make a point? Yes.
Like all this generalization, actually, I had this point in my write-up also, that every generation has thought that the next generation has it easy, but it is going to turn up like this. In ONGC, we recently took a slew of, a lot of measures to more engage the millennial population that we are increasingly recruit. And what is happening because of that is that we see that the non-millennials say that, why are you not doing this for us? Because we also want the similar kind of things. So that is one thing that is generalizing, but let's not do it. Let's do it for everybody if we want to.
Sure.
Hi.
Please hire us.
Hi, I would like to make a
Okay,
point.
there's a person here. Yeah, if you could stand up, please, then they'll find you. Yeah. The lady
Hi,
here, please.
I have a point to make.
Sorry, where are
here,
you?
back in the audience.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so I heard about, so I'm a millennial.
Okay.
And two things I would want to make. One is flexible schedules. You are saying that flexibility is something millennials are wanting. Tell me, the generation, what you are in, you are also looking for work-life integration. You've been going on vacations with families. So I think there's a study by the consulting firms that flexible work-life is just a myth. It's integration, and all the generations are demanding that. That's one.
Okay.
Two, on artificial intelligence, it's the digital transformation entire globally it's going through. So we are using one of the mediums to be on upbeat, and it's all about digital fitness. So I think it's about reverse mentoring and forward-looking things, and there's no gap between the generation. It's just the thought process that has got changed.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you want to make a point, Shraddha?
Maybe I can comment. Completely agree. I think that we just changed from work-life balance to work-life integration. They want to go to the gym at 11 in the afternoon, go to the gym for 1 hour in the afternoon, full stop. We took vacations because the school, not we, okay. Kids had Dashara holidays for 10 days. You had to do something for them. You can't keep 10 days at home. Or summers, so you planned like that. They say they want that flexibility day in and day out. And trust me, that's what I think a lot of organizations are really looking at. Is it the easiest thing to do? Let me accept that it isn't, right? If somebody comes at 3, and I'll give you an example. Somebody comes into office at 6 a.m., he or she exits at 12. How does that person spend the time with the team? So there are implications when your work is not just individual, and that as an organization as well as millennials need to be cognizant of. So I'll give you a classical example. We've kept a 4-hour or 5-hour window which says this is non-compromisable. You can do whatever you want, like leave at 3, Bangalore traffic for people who know Bangalore. So we leave at 3, right? So if you want to get home today to your family, you probably want to do that. So there are things that we do, but there are practical aspects of work-life integration and moving away from work-life balance.
Yeah, Vivek, go ahead.
Just want to comment. So whatever you are saying seems like a very forward-thinking organization's way of dealing with millennials. I've dealt with clients who have a very different perspective about work-life balance. They don't believe in it. They just feel that if you're not in the office, you're not working, right? So one of the people, companies I've worked with, right? The manager was saying that, the owner was saying that, see, these people want to leave for 2 hours, and they won't take leave. They won't take half day and reduce their leave. They just want to leave for 2 hours and come back. And this keeps happening over and over again, right? So he's kind of frustrated because these people are just taking on these leaves and they're not getting the work done, right? So how do we then handle the situation? So after going a lot of discussion back and forth, the millennials find that it's only 2 hours. I just have to run some errands and I'll be back and I'll do the work at home. But the older generations, they find that it's a bit hard to believe that you will complete the work, right? There's this lack of trust. So eventually, he came up with a new scheme, which is a quarter-day leave. So you can take 2 hours, but it has to be cut from your annual day leave. And these are the kind of things that they are experiencing, right? They don't have that forward-thinking mindset that you will go home, you will get your work done, and we will have that trust between the both of us.
Okay, interesting.
Hi.
Yes. Sorry, who's this?
This is
Yeah,
here
okay.
at the front row.
Could you stand up, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kamal.
Yeah.
I think the comment which I want to make is that we should stop generalizing based on any criteria. We have been dealing with issues of diversity and inclusions based on gender, caste, ethnicity. I think this is new thing we have added into our complexity, which is the age. Age also has been part of the diversity problem. As a humans, it is obvious that when we see someone who's different than us, whether it is differently abled, whether it is different gender, whether it is different skin color, and now the age, we start thinking they are of different kind. And then we stop listening about what they are saying, we start thinking who is saying. So once we start listening on what we are saying and rationalize that, I believe people from any age or any background will understand what is required for the outcomes. Thank you.
Sure, okay. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more points quickly. Yes, the lady here, if you could stand up. Yes, please get a mic across here. The lady here, the 4th row. Yeah.
Hi everyone. I have 2 points to whatever everyone has said. Number one is that the difference between the generation gap now and before is like, before we didn't have access to all this social media, Google and all these things. Because of that, what happens, the generation are having the knowledge of what is happening all over the world, and they can always ask why that organization is giving and why are you not giving. Like in our kids say, uske paas mobile hai, mere paas kyun nahi? So things like that, so that is the difference. It makes more challenging for us and more challenging for all the human factors, the stress, the adjustment we need to do now with the millennials. Number two is that I would say that it has always been there, and as in Mr. Ashish sir is sitting here, Kal Aaj Aur Kal is a very classic movie which has been made, like this concept has been there for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, one last point. Yes, the lady here.
I would like to make a
Sorry,
point here.
who's this?
Sorry, Ritesh.
Yeah, I can't see you. Are you at the back somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Only definition which we have come across, or which my friend and I have decided upon, is the generation gap is the gene ration. Whatever rationing is happening in the next genes is the generation gap which we look into. And this gap has increased from last generation to this generation. So that is, I think, one of the factors which is affecting us, and we are having this discussion over the table.
Sure. Okay. One final point from the lady here in the second row. Can you get the mic here, please?
Sir, hello. I wanted
No,
to
1
ask
second, please. I'm going to come to her first. Please get the mic here.
Okay. Hi. I'm Amrita, and I'm a millennial myself. But I think being in HR gives you the dispassionate ground to look at every spectrum and analyze the situation for yourself. I think biases are on both sides of the spectrum. I'm sorry, but a lot of work and a lot of discussion continues to happen on millennials. Nobody thinks on how they need to work with millennials so that they adapt to the other generation as well.
Sure.
I think very less work is happening there, because very soon we'll be having a lot of generations working together under the same roof. And as HR, I think our responsibility lies in making the millennials respect experience and making the other elder generation respect flexibility for them.
Absolutely. And on that phenomenal note, I close this debate. Thank you very much, the panelists, and you've been extremely honest, like always. And thank you for being such a great audience and enjoying this debate. Yes, there is clearly an over-stereotype that is happening here, but at the same time, it's not an issue that you can ignore. Let's not forget that you are all people in business. There are businesses being built around a certain thought pattern, behavior pattern of a certain generation, and you've got to be able to understand that generation. It's your biggest consumer market. It's your biggest workforce market. So I think it's very important that this conversation continues and we keep trying to understand each other. So wish you all the very best, and thank you very much for this lovely interaction.